Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where we are still working on our Ascent module here for Eve, and it's got some work that we need, for sure. Now, we still haven't proofed that it's actually going to make it out of the atmosphere. We had some pretty major aerodynamics issues. We first need to proof that it's going to successfully make it in, though, right? And let's go ahead and take this down. I just kind of assumed that it was going to successfully make it in. I want to verify that. So let's bring that on down, and I do want to have a few, maybe kind of small, aerodynamic control surfaces, and we're hoping, fingers crossed, that they don't burn off. But if these air brakes don't burn off, I don't expect that aerodynamic control systems will burn off. Fingers crossed on that one. Okay, so we're not going to, I think, use aeroplane tail fins. I think we're going to use maybe standard canards and just see about scooching these in here. Maybe even running them like up top, up here, where they're a little bit more protected. Maybe over here to be kind of in line with these, using these as heat shields to some degree. We'll see if that ends up working. Okay, so as I said, we need to test to ensure that we're going to be able to land with this system. Now, I'm 95% certain that this will work, but I want to be 100% certain. So let's just double check as we load in here that all of this is looking good. This is not looking good. We're going to need this to be up here. We're not going to be deploying this. These are drogue chutes, I believe, and these are all main chutes, so they would need to be in this order here. Now, we're going to simulate this once again by placing this over Eve. And this is going to be reverted. This is just a simulation to make sure that this plan will even work. And we're going to set an altitude of 100,000 kilometers. Absolutely. Ooh. I believe that my headphones just came unplugged. Let me fix that. There we go. That's sounding much better. And we're going to be at a pitch of 90 degrees. We are not easing to ground. So let's test this. And we are going to start plummeting here. We're going to set our deployment angle to be 90 degrees. And we're going to go ahead and activate these engines. We're going to do SAS on in surface retrograde mode. And we're just doing a simulation descent here. This should be completely successful. So we're going to warp down until we hit the atmosphere here, which will be now. Excellent. And our air brakes are now doing their thing. So that's great. And once we hit about 1.2 kilometers per second, that's when we want to do our burn. And that's just using this tiny little header tank up here to burn off in it, just the edge of our heat generation there. That's all we're trying to do here. So we're just watching for this to hit about 1.2 meters per second. 1.2 kilometers per second is what we're going to be going for. And we are going to fire these engines very soon. We're firing them now. And that's our aero brake, or rather our entry burn. SAS at this point should be relatively safe to be off, but we're going to try to hold the surface retrograde. We don't have to. As expected, this re-entry is fine. We're going to deploy our drogue chutes. Our drogue chutes will slow us down nicely. At this point, SAS can go off. Our main chutes are going to be deployable in just a moment. And we're not, I think, going to take this all the way to the ground. That's quite a tip there, but that's expected. Our mains are going to be deployed now. And actually, we should take it all the way to the ground because we had the physics warp issue previously. We may still have a physics warp issue, but honestly, I don't think that will be the case. Let's go ahead and bring our air brakes down to 45 degrees. They are no longer really the thing that is slowing us down. Their usefulness has been used up as air brakes, and they are now becoming de facto landing legs. Fantastic. So we're going to physics warp down to the ground, or not quite to the ground. We're going to physics warp down to 2 kilometers in radar altitude mode, because that's when the... Whoa. Stop that. Oh, physics warp. You are so weird. So I guess that's all the physics warping we're going to do. This is very green. And of course this is because we're coming down at like the Terminator line for Eve. Excellent. So let's pass through this heavy cloud cover. You can see here we are decelerating currently. We have no fuel in the tanks. We don't necessarily care about the attitude of our touchdown though. And by that I mean whether we successfully stay upright. We don't necessarily care about that. Okay, it is very dark here. We're not necessarily surprised by that. We're going to be landing in daylight, to be clear, in reality. We are absolutely going to be landing in daylight. Let's just bring this down, make sure this parachute system works. And we are moving at about 100 meters per second right now with none of our parachutes deployed. It is very dark here. I'm sure there's very little that can be seen at this point in terms of the atmosphere of Eve. But we're still falling through the atmosphere. I don't believe we can see the ground yet. I think these are all still clouds. And it looks like it's getting maybe a little lighter. So that's great. Still moving at about 100 meters per second here. And there go our 2 drogue chutes. Yes, that's ground, for sure. Fantastic. So, we are approaching the ground here, 1.7 kilometers above the surface, falling at about 60 meters per second. And of course, we don't have a way right now to do any, like, docking or anything like that. That will all come later. This is all just proofing that this is going to work. That looks fine. 4.6 meters per second. Yeah, that's just fine. We don't even need to see the touchdown. That is not an issue at 4.6 meters per second. So, next, we need to do a liftoff test. This is going to be the more complicated one, for sure. We need to have everything fueled up. And of course, this will be fueled up on planet. And the question is, do these canards give us enough authority to actually lift off? Now, I still don't believe that we have enough delta V in this thing, to be clear. But we've just barely got that thrust to weight here. So, it's slightly concerning, to be sure. We may need more power, which is insane. 4 vectors is a ludicrous amount of energy that we're throwing at this. But we're going to simulate the other portion of this mission now. So let's pop over to Eve. We do want to ease to ground now, a pitch of 90 degrees, and we will set our position. Active vessel is easing in. Okay, so that's not very eased, if I'm honest. We'll revert back to the launch, and we'll try that again with the physics easing. Although maybe we'll just immediately try to take off. That's probably for the best, now that I think about it. So let's just place this in once again at a pitch of 90 degrees, and actually, we'll try this at 0, 0 and see if we can ease it in at 0, 0. I can't remember if that's bumpier or not. That's straight up water. Okay. And this is going to be reverted, so that contract parameter being completed is not necessarily a problem. Can we start underwater? Can we start our engine? We're going to need to not deploy these. Just checking this here. This would be not deployed in this test. What is that deployment? That's the engine plate? Okay. Let's see if we can do this. Yeah, we can do this. Excellent. Okay, so we're just going up for now. Just up. This is a lot. Whoa, that's a lot of control, actually. I'm not actually shocked by this, so let's try that again. I know I'm doing this a lot, but we're going to need to test I want to do a straight up test and see just how high we can get. That's what I want to test right now. So these guys go up here, and we do want to be able to decouple this. That'll be fine. And we will go ahead and fire these engines. And, whoa, I don't want to throttle it right now. That was a mistake. Okay, I did want to fire the engines, but I didn't want to throttle it. So, let's be ready for this. SAS on. SAS off. SAS is going wacky. I think perhaps because these guys have their pitch and yaw active. Yeah, that would be why. Okay, that's fine. So we'll turn that off for now, and we'll move this on up here. We'll fire the engines. We're not going to throttle them up just yet, and we're going to place this in here. I'm not going to ease to ground, because I don't want physics easing. And we'll just drop this in here. Ah, wrong angle. Oh, I didn't set it to 90 degrees. That's my own fault. That is my own fault, and I will own that. Okay, let's set it to 90 degrees this time. That would help. All those other steps. Good. Okay. 0, 0, 90 degrees. Don't ease to ground. Set position, we're ready to throttle up. Oh, that was exciting. Okay. We're trying to just go straight up here, is what we're trying to do. So, these fuel tanks will eventually burn out. And yeah, we'll just try to hold here. And just see how this goes. Oh, our air brakes are deployed. Please don't deploy those air brakes. That is an inefficiency that we'll have to keep in mind. And up we go. And where we stop, well, that's what we're trying to find out. That's a lot of wiggling. That's a whole lot of wiggling. Can we please just stay here? Like, just lock to prograde. Thank you. That's not prograde. Fascinating. Those should get ditched for sure. That was what was giving us the stability, though, was all of those. Okay. So now we know that these canards, at the very least, are insufficient. And I'm not shocked by this, because if we look at the center of mass compared to the aerodynamic overlay, yeah, it's going to be a problem. But what if, instead, we did, say, this? That's still a little high, and actually I would really prefer, strongly prefer, that they be down over here, but this is not the angling that I would like to see for them. Like, this is not great angling at all. That would be better angling. Slightly. Something like that. Now, to be clear, these may well get destroyed when we do our detachment. In fact, I'm kind of expecting it. We're going to retract these. And yeah, I am kind of expecting these to be destroyed. Let's go ahead and save that, and just, we'll see what kind of control that gives us. I have no idea. I've never really done too much controlled flight, or attempts at controlled flight, in Eve's atmosphere. So that's why we're doing all this simulation. I gotta make sure that this works, right? So, I mean, and one thing I've been considering is all of this that I'm doing on camera, some other people might not do on camera. I think that the process is more important, personally. I think that, ooh, yeah, we need to turn off that. I think that the process is more important than the results, and that's why I do it this way. So let's hop over to Eve, and we'll place it at about that same altitude, pitch of 90 degrees, and we will not ease it in, And we'll set that position. We'll load that. And we'll attempt to take off here. Okay. Obviously, we're not going to have to fight that downward bit when we do this for real. But that means that this is slightly more difficult than what we're looking for. So that is actually a very, very good thing. I'm trying to get us to moving straight up here. And that's pretty close. We'll call that good for now. As far as detaching these outer tanks go, that's when we've lost attitude before. We'll see if that remains the case here. There's a lot of wiggling going on here. And I don't like it. Oh, that bend, though. Did you see that bend? Oh, man. So we definitely did lose a few of our canards there. Oh, this is spicy. This is real spicy. I'm just letting it go, by the way. Look at that bend there. That is insanity. Okay, so this isn't gonna do what we need it to do by any means. That's quite a spin we've developed. And I'm wondering if we just need to throttle this thing down as we go up. I'm wondering if we just have too much control. Like, what if we turn off gimbaling on these vectors? It might just be too much. We turn off gimbaling. We have to do that individually, apparently. But if we do that, let's see what happens. 0, 0, 90. This time I'm going to put it at like 30 meters, just so that I have a little bit more time to respond. More like this. Oh, we still hit the water before we took off. Okay. SAS, bring it on back. Bring it on back. Okay. I mean, we do have these air brakes that are currently helping us with our pitch and yaw. I'm going to turn them off for now. This does seem more stable. For sure. Okay, there's the rock beginning. But it's better. Oh, that bend there, though. Oh, that is intense. Look at that. Oh, that just hurts to look at. So clearly this joint here is an issue, right? We need to fix this joint. So we are going to need to come in over here. I wouldn't have expected this joint to be an issue, but it's, I think, because of the battery bank is there, maybe? What I'd like to do is put in, say, 4 struts. One from here, one to here. I'm not sure if that really went where I wanted it to. Maybe it did. Maybe that's connected the way I want it to. I don't know if that'll help. I guess we'll see. It may or may not. So, first things first. Oh, I didn't turn off the gimbaling of the engines in the VAB. Yeah, that's something that we'll need to do. That's definitely a big improvement. Those engines should not be gimbaling. That is very clear to me. The gimbal is too effective. But we've actually been doing quite well on these tests. We're getting slowly better. These test results are improving. And that is absolutely wonderful for me. I'm very happy to see that. I don't know that this is actually going to connect here. We're going to find out. I'm going to make it be like 40 this time because we still hit the water. I'd prefer not to hit the water if we can at all help it. I don't know how realistic that is, but what I'm going to do here this time is I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to fire the engine, then I'm going to throttle up and then hit set position. Like that. Did it take the throttle up? No. But we'll still do this. Man, that deceleration is kind of bonkers. I mean, our thrust to weight ratio is really low, right? So there is that. We're just trying to bring this straight up right now. Bring it on over. Excellent. And we'll just try to sit right here for now. And let's see if this joint is at all improved. Trying to steer in this atmosphere is almost an exercise in futility. Almost. When do we need to ditch these tanks? That would be now. Off they go. And up we go. I'm mostly just interested in what our apoapsis looks like at this point. But I think this is our first run where we're looking solid at seeing what our straight-up apoapsis does look like. We're really accelerating at this point. And I feel like this is too much thrust. I'm going to throttle this back a bit, actually. Because we're really moving. We appear to be out of fuel. Okay, so that got us about half the height that we need to go. Now, I think a lot of that was lost for two major reasons. Those reasons are as follows. A lot was lost to atmospheric drag because we were both too weak and too powerful with our engines. So, I think what we might want to consider doing is putting some weaker engines on these that pull only from these tanks, ditching this connection and doing something. What do we want on these? Maybe just like Reliance. We haven't used Reliance in a while, but that might help a bit. Using Reliance out here and then throttling down these vectors, or perhaps ditching the vectors entirely and switching this to, say, quad swivel. What would that end up looking like in terms of burn time, delta V, all that fun stuff? So quad swivel like that. We burn these all together, and this burn time is okay. Thrust to weight is spicily low, there's no doubt about that. So we're going to have to definitely not have these guys. What if we ditch the engine plate and instead have a mainsail on here? That's not enough. That is nowhere near enough. Okay. Do we have something that has more vacuum, or rather more sea level thrust than a Reliant in this size? So that's 205. I mean, there are vectors. That's definitely something that exists. Kodiaks are slightly more thrust at sea level. Ever so slightly. Not enough, though. Okay. Okay. What if we ran Kodiaks and we put the engine plate in? And that should be the EP25. And I don't know where I put that. I'll put it there. Wonderful. And instead, we ran triple vectors. These would exist mostly just to get the vectors moving a bit. Like so. That is slightly more thrust to weight. 46-second burn time plus a 45-second burn time. We would want to run the fuel lines, for sure. Like that. And this engine plate would just not be used for a while. 38 seconds. What if we had this at 2 vectors? Like this. We would turn this gimbaling off. We would turn that off. And it would be something like this. Our initial thrust to weight isn't high enough. Okay. That's good to know. That's very good to know. What if we use solid fuel boosters instead? Like, that's a weird idea, right? Or twin bores. No. I really need to think about how I want to do this. I don't like this concept. This is not enough thrust to weight ratio to lift. But once these are burned out and we're burning this... Actually, are we actually accessing this up here? Well, we have to be, right? Because we were using this as a header tank. So that would be fine. I have to wonder... We need more thrust at sea level. We need less thrust as we start to lift up. We could simply throttle down. That is an option. That is something that I'm definitely thinking about. It is, however, time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to consider how I want to handle this. It's an interesting problem that needs to be solved. We need more thrust when we lift off, and less thrust later on, which ends up meaning that we need more thrust to weight. Right? But we'll see. We'll see what I come up with. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and I will see you all next time. That was an interesting looking map.